Welcome to Let's Talk Rubbish. I'm Scrap Boy. We're here on Gumbunja Country. We're going to get straight into talking all things art and change with Elise Marcolin. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I am very excited to chat about the work that you're doing with the Penrith City Council. What's your role and your title with the council?
So I'm a Resource Recovery Education Officer. So I sit within Council's Waste and Resource Recovery team, and my role is primarily sort of getting messages out to the community about, how to manage their waste or reduce, reuse, recycle, the whole waste hierarchy, everything.
Very important work, and I'd love to talk to you more about it. But first, let's find out a bit more about you.
Sure.
Where did you grow up? And we'd love to know what the natural world looked like when you were a kid.
Yeah, so I grew up in the hills. So I originally was sort of from Winston Hills and moved around a little bit, but primarily from only Sydney-based locations. And it was definitely something where I was lucky enough to have bushland surrounding, and I definitely have always felt very at home and very connected to those types of places. I obviously, as everybody, as a Sydney-sider, have been visiting beaches my whole life, so that natural environment is definitely something I'm drawn to, but the bush has always been something around me. So,
as an adult, do you still find that going back to the bush or to the beach helps you to reconnect with nature?
Most definitely. So I think nature is a really big part of, for myself, how to recharge, how to get a bit of clarity in my headspace, how to get back to the really important things and ground yourself is really important, to go back to where it's, I guess, everything that's bigger than you, to put you in your little place, I guess.
Yeah, remind you of your context.
Exactly.
In the world. So communication, education, councils all over the world do it, but I'm really excited about the work that you've been doing in Penrith.
Yeah.
I probably should start by asking about the Reanimate Festival.
Yes.
What is that and when did it start?
So the Reanimate Festival was sort of designed by a collaboration of council departments in Penrith City Council, and it was on the back of a real festival, but it was sort of a COVID response to that. So Reanimate Festival was something that could happen that was distanced out in the community. It was over a month period, which ended up being extended last November. And it was just a way for people to get out and about and be in a place with each other, but in a safe way. So, and also in a way that was delivering messages, so sustainability and everything like that could be spoken about.
I'm sure there's some people on the stream who've been into the area and have seen what we're talking about, but for everyone else, what is the messaging and the conversation that people would have seen when they went into these public places as part of Reanimate?
Yeah, so the murals in particular that were a part of Reanimate all spoke to sustainability. And that was intentionally done because there is a really exciting project, the City Park project, that has commenced there, which is going to see quite a significant development of a green space and tying in that community connection back to nature. And all of the murals spoke to that, to sort of find that connection again before that sort of all changed. But yeah. Okay,
so on the screen we've just had a little preview of a Penrith street, and there's a building there with this beautiful mural. It doesn't look like this has been something that's just happened without conversation and collaboration. How do you go about finding a public space, engaging artists and, I presume, community to come up with what is an incredible piece of art?
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of the sort of nitty-gritty of it, I was lucky enough to not have to be within the department that sourced the location. That was our city activation team who sort of led the Reanimate Festival as a whole. But definitely the briefing process. So this mural in particular spoke to FOGO and its role in the circular economy. And Dan Sides, or D Sides as his artistry name is, was our artist for this one. And we sort of had a bit of a chat back and forth and a bit of a conversation around what that could mean and humans' role in sustaining the environment. And yeah, that was something that he amazingly came up with, that artwork with lots of different natural things that we recognise in our environment, the eastern water dragon, the fairy wren and things like that, with the human hands and the human connection tied in.
Okay, let's take a look at another one of these beautiful murals. Really interesting that the community, an artist and people who obviously own these spaces are able to work together to create something that sits inside the environment. It doesn't look like it's out of place. So what are we looking at here?
So this one is a mural that was commissioned from an artist called Happy Decay, or his name is Yanni Walk. He's quite unique, as you can see. He's very vibrant with his colours, very creative with his little creatures. And he was delivering an artwork on a brief that is somewhat tricky, because sorting in terms of waste has definitely been something we're trying to communicate as council and in resource recovery and waste management for a while. But he just took a fresh approach to that, and something that definitely spoke to the community and the younger community. So children love this one. There's actually around the corner of that mural, there's little chalk additions that have been added by children who have visited the site. They've added their own little waste sorting drawings and things like that, which was really amazing to see them engaging in that way.
In any of these locations, Elise, were there any existing artworks or graffiti, if we're still using that expression for unauthorised artwork in public places?
Yes, so this wall in particular, it had a few street artistry tags that had sort of been put there by different visitors to the site. But Dan, our previous artist that I spoke about, he has spent quite a lot of time with the local youth groups and that street art community, and he's quite connected with a lot of the people that are involved there. And he explained that the way that that sort of respect works there is that because he is someone who has a relationship with those local artists and the local community in that space, it's quite frowned upon to then tag someone's work that you know and respect. So Dan had that connection, and the other street artists like Yanni and Sophie was our third muralist, and the other artists that had murals. It was something that we were really, it was nice to learn that that level of respect is there, and that tie into the local community and local art community as well is, a factor in us having beautiful murals that aren't being tagged and aren't, subject to anything like that.
So we've got another beautiful mural. This looks like an enormous undertaking. We're not talking about a wall here. We're talking about a wall and a roof and a third story.
Yes.
What's this piece all about?
So this one was commissioned from an artist. Her name is Sophie Odling, and you're right, this one was a very tricky install, and she's amazingly talented to navigate the awnings, the double height, everything like that. Many of them have different lifts and things that they have to navigate, but Sophie definitely had a challenge here. And a fun fact is that she was actually our fastest install, so it was tricky, but she was quick. And the mural speaks to reuse. So Sophie's interpretation of that brief was about the magic in reuse, and this is actually her daughter that she's depicted in that mural, so she had a very personal connection to it. Her daughter is sort of gazing to the future with, maybe somewhat sadder things in the past in terms of not respecting the environment, and how to incorporate things that we have and use them again and find magic in that.
I'm really excited about this. Would love to talk more, but we've just been told there's a very special guest joining us on the stream. Elise, please welcome to the conversation all about the power of art in creating change. Costa, the garden gnome, otherwise known as Costa Georgiatus. Costa, where are you dialing in from?
Hello. Hello, Elise. Lovely
Hello,
to see
Costa.
you both.
Likewise.
I am dialing in. I'm dialing in from a very wet Cabargo down in the southeast of New South Wales. I'm here at the Cabargo Primary School, and we have been talking exactly those things when we sort of deconstructed an ear of corn and explained all of the wonderful wrapping and the fact that there's no waste. And looking, it's wonderful. It really is. It's fantastic, because I have that connection with Penrith, Elise, and your Fogo project, and looking at these murals. There's such a non-intimidating way of sharing message, and you see the wonderful series of work that's being done at the moment on silos around the country. And, that's become a real signature for small towns
Yes.
across all over Australia. But your work with these murals, the city, it brings such a canvas of opportunity to be able to talk about everything from Indigenous history and culture through to waste and waste reduction to being the change that you can be. And it's not only fun, but it's informative, and it's also really poignant in the sense that message is there every day, and people go in the morning, in the afternoon, and it's to bed down those ideas not only visually, but they're fantastic.
Costa, something that I find has a real similarity to what I know your verge looks like in your neck of the woods is the fact that this stuff that you've created with artists in a suburban space isn't normally there, but it looks like it fits there. I think the conversation around being disruptive when we're talking about change making and sustainability, years ago there was the term guerrilla gardening being used when people went into public spaces without authorization and they started to grow verge gardens. The interesting similarity for me, Costa, is that no one ever damaged or vandalised those because they actually brought a renewed energy and a sense of enjoyment to a public space in exactly the same way that these artworks are sitting in communities and they're creating conversation. I just think it's a really interesting way to start a conversation.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if...
After you.
I was going to say, sorry, I'm not sure if Costa has, I'm sure he has much to add, but that was one of the main things that was a success of the murals, that sparking of conversations that, you know, were happening in places that people visited frequently. And they were topical now, but they're something that will continue to be probably increasingly relevant in the future. And because they are staying in situ into the ongoing future, it's something that will be a continual reminder of that connection and that, you know, that importance between our involvement and the impacts we have every day on the natural environment.
Yeah. Costa, you've got a beautiful verge garden in your neck of the woods, and I know you're heavily involved with taking council space and transforming it into something that grows food, helps to reduce waste, but also creates conversation. How powerful is this sort of disruptive change making?
Oh, you're right on the pulse there, Scrap Boy. The thing with the verge garden, in a sense, is much like what Elite is doing, in that the garden itself is the art. And people walk past, families walk past it every morning going to school. They walk past it on their way home. And like Elise's murals, that message is there. And with a garden, the message actually changes from season to season. So you get that actual three-dimensional aspect, that seasonal aspect of the garden, the living garden mural. And I really love the fact that, you know, I have young children come up and they want to visit the worm farms and they want to visit the compost and see what's doing and see what's growing. And when they come up, I then say, come and have a look at the native bees and have you tried this before? And their parents are standing by their side. So the message is going to the parents at the same time. Their grandparents come over to visit and they go, oh, come up here, we want to show you this. So intergenerationally, this becomes a focal point for, as Elise mentioned, for the whole community every single day.
Costa and Elise, I'd love to talk quickly about access too, because for the same way that a verge garden is important to give people space to be involved in that gardening story, I suppose that in every community there are all sorts of people from all walks of life and all different experiences. The opportunity to see beautiful, important artwork in a public space is giving access to people who may not necessarily have had that experience before, but also giving the artists an opportunity to engage in a conversation that they may not necessarily have been able to access in their part of the world. How important is that in a community?
Incredibly. So that conversation between the artists did live installs. So while they were painting over the whole period of time that they were doing bits and pieces, because as you can understand, mural artworks do take a lot of time and a lot of sort of process into that. But they were engaged with the community during that as well. So they were very passionate about delivering the messages that were behind the murals and explaining why they were painting what they were and including the bits and pieces that they were. And it was, accessible, as you said, to the whole community. So I talked a little bit particularly about Yarnies and age, but that site is used as, you know, a service site for sort of things like local Meals on Wheels services. And there was a story that I shared a little bit earlier, but underneath or around the corner of Yanni's mural is a spot where one of our local residents does sleep sometimes, and Yanni extended that mural around there so he had something beautiful to look up to, and he developed quite a strong connection with that man. And then that's another way for them to become engaged in that conversation that might be quite challenging for them to access otherwise.
Costa, what's your experience with this sort of change and giving people access to something that they may traditionally not have had? How important is that in creating that sense of community?
I think what it's doing is creating pathways for art to connect with people and to connect with the community, and for, as you said, all generations to see it and talk about it and dissect it and get to know it, and then start to replicate art in different ways for children to then see art as something of a nation. Think about it like that, then I'll leave you with this, Scrap Boy and Elise. You know, community art is about putting the heart, and there's heart in art, and we need more heart and we need more art. Now the kids are ready. We're putting 15 large posts in, and the children are now, I'm going to be painting their hands, and they're going to be putting their handprints onto this art wall made out of large posts with their artwork on the top of these 3 metre high posts. I have to drop the mic at this point. Elise, awesome work. Thanks for bringing me in, and I'll see you all later.
Grubby with those kids, and what a beautiful thing, literally leaving your handprint on something as a legacy and a conversation starter. Elise, I could talk for hours about what this project means to your community. Is there anyone on the stream that has public art in their area? I'd love to hear where you're from and what that art is and why it's there. I'd like to get some input from you for those people who are on the stream. How do you start? Obviously, this was a conversation that came out of a need to engage community through COVID, but if there are people on the stream right now who love what this has done for your community and they want to try something like this in their LGA or in their neighbourhood, how can they do it? What would your advice be?
My advice would be is to collaborate. So this was really a story of a lot of people, a lot of departments in council, but a lot of community members, a lot of local business owners, a lot of the arts community coming together and sort of having the conversations to see what the joint message could be and the joint relevance can be, so that we all get something that's amazing and relevant and continued relevance for the future that's, you know, for your community specifically. It won't be the same in different places. So yeah.
Reach out, and that's a really important thing, is that when we're connected, the power of change is amplified. Elise, thank you so much for everything that you're doing in your community, in your naturehood, bringing art to the people and using art as a powerful positive change. I'm sure if people want to reach out, they can contact you through the council? Most
definitely. So I'm contactable through council. We have, if you go onto our website, penrith.city, we have lots of different modes of connecting, whether it be online or via the telephone. And yeah, my name's everywhere, so feel free to ask for me by that.
Fantastic. I can't thank you enough for joining us. Penrith City Council is so lucky to have you and your team doing great things. It's been an absolute treat. Costa is off doing great work. We're going to leave it there. If you're around later, we might have more Talking on Rubbish. See you soon.